Oh, dang it. Come on. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh dear. If those shots reminding you of yourself or someone you know, this might be the video for you or them. This sort of shot, this sort of distance is a shot that people often think they should be hitting to a couple of feet pretty much every time. And even on tour, that's just not realistic. But hopefully following some of these ideas, you can get the ball on the green or a lot closer to the hole more often than you are now. Let's talk about it. The first thing we're going to look at is setup. So often what I find in setup with these ones for people is that they tend to set up like they're going to hit a big shot, like a long 180-yard 8-iron shot. So they tend to get their feet quite wide, handle very low, and they're ready for power. But these shots are more about precision. They're more about controlling the distance and controlling our strike than they are about hitting the ball far. So one of the things that we need to do at setup is set up to prepare ourselves for a shot like that. The first thing I like to see people do is get their feet a bit narrower. So you can see here, this would be a normal width for me here. I would probably be more this sort of distance here for my 50-yard shot. Now, if a 50-yard shot is a full swing for you at the moment, then take this to the equivalent yardage for you. So it might be, say, a 30-yard shot. So we still want to have our feet fairly narrow or narrower than we were with our normal setup. The ball position is going to be in the middle to very fractionally ahead of the middle. This allows us to get a good clean strike on the golf ball first, or that's the idea behind it anyway. The next thing we want to do is have our body weight slightly ahead of the golf ball, or our pressure slightly ahead of the golf ball. So I'm going to lean about 60 to 70% of my weight on my left leg. This is to encourage me to get the strike ahead of the golf ball, so I'm not going to make contact with the ground too early. And that's kind of where I leave it for setup for the moment. If I want to play different shots, higher, lower, then I might adjust stuff, but that is the basic 50-yard shot as I like to see it. The next problem that I often see with these shots is the way people try and play them. They tend to try and use a lot of arms, whereas I would like to see these be more of a body-driven shot, in particular a lot of use of the upper body. What I often see, or what I often see people try and do, is that the club tends to just be lifted up and down with the arms. I find this makes contacting the ground at the right time with the right loft delivery very difficult. It's very hard to do consistently. And when it comes to these shots, you want to be able to control that distance as best you can. So what I would like to see people do, and a really good way to practice this, is I want them to use their upper body a lot more. So we're going to get into our setup position. Okay, that ball's going to be more towards the middle, slightly ahead. And we're going to really focus on getting our chest to go through the ball with these practice swings, but we're also going to try and turn our head to look at the target as if we're not even looking at the ball when we make contact. Just watch this and hopefully it'll make more sense. So we're going to have my practice swing. And then I'm going to try and get my head to turn towards the target before I even hit the golf ball. This is getting my upper body to go through the golf ball, meaning that my arms are much more out of the swing. It feels much more body driven. It just feels like my arms are along for the ride, and gravity is the thing that is dropping the club head into the golf ball. And then even hit some shots trying to do that, where you feel like, okay, you set up to it, you're going to give it a go. Your head is going to rotate before you even hit the golf ball. See how you find your strike. I often find if I'm struggling with my pitching and chipping, it's because my upper body is stopping, and I then have to have some practice swings and hit some shots where I feel like my head is turning before I hit the golf ball. This gets everything working back in the right order. It allows my body to keep rotating, my hands to keep moving, rather than this up-down motion where we tend to find people struggle with ground contact, particularly hitting the ground too early or not at all, increasing our chances, increasing the likelihood we're going to be able to judge the distance more effectively. Another issue I see when it comes to the technique of this is that often people will try and hit the ball up in the air. You'll often find that actually the best pitchers in the world, unless they really need to, tend to hit the ball quite low when they're pitching. It comes in, sort of hops and skips and then stops. You see that quite a bit on TV. Amateurs often try and hit the ball up in the air to get the ball to land softly, in my best guess, is part of the reason why we see them struggle so much when it comes to pitching and chipping. So I've enlisted the help of a couple of friends here to help get that strike more consistent, get the ball launching a little bit lower, making it easier for you to control your distance. So just put you down for a second there, chaps. So what we often see, and sometimes this is fixed by just purely letting the head go through, but what we often see is people will try and lean back, try and lift the ball up in the air, contacting the ground a bit early, not contacting the ground at all, and we tend to see those poor strikes. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh dear. So if you have a look at the best chippers and pitchers in the world, And I kind of mentioned this in the setup part as well. What they'll do, okay, they'll set up with a bit of weight on their left leg, but as they swing the club back, their head actually moves slightly ahead of the golf ball. This tends to encourage the golf club's lowest point to be ahead of the golf ball. It also encourages the club to go downwards into the golf ball rather than along or upwards. The reason we want this is because it makes it easier to ensure cleanliness of contact, meaning that we're again going to control our distance better. Now I've got the extra club here, because what I find is that the extra weight at the end of the clubs makes me want to counterbalance and move my head this way as I swing the club back. So if I was to swing the club back and move my head back like most people would, I'm actually going to fall over slightly in that direction. Where we want to have the club go back and my head is going to move ahead of the golf ball to counterbalance that weight and make sure I stay balanced. What I'm going to do here, and what I'd like you to try if this is something that you have troubles with, set up to it, and as you swing the club back, almost feel like the weight that you've put onto your left leg, your front leg as you've set up, increases, and then you can rotate through, hopefully ensuring a fairly clean strike there. So you definitely get a cleaner strike when we try and get the head, the body, to stay ahead of the golf ball. So either at setup by sitting up with a bit of weight on your left leg, or by feeling like as you swing the club back, you shift a bit more weight onto that front foot and then rotate through with that upper body using that head drill that we talked about earlier. One last pitfall I see is people often getting the leading edge of the club sticking into the ground. So we get that kind of shot, a lot of dirt explosion, a lot of big divots, and then often the ball will go nowhere, kind of like that. I'm not saying we don't want the golf club going down, but it's the manner in which we get it going down that we want to try and look at. So we don't want the golf club going down and our hands to be way ahead in this leading edge sticking into the ground. We actually want to be feeling like the back edge of the club is the thing brushing the ground. So have some practice swings. You can put it all together now. You can have your head rotating, body moving ahead in that backswing, and then trying to feel like as you make contact with the ground, the thing that's contacting the ground is the back edge of the club. This should allow you to deliver somewhere near the appropriate loft most of the time, meaning that again, you can judge that distance, you can control how far the golf ball is going more often. Okay, so I'm feeling like as I swing the club through, I'm making good contact with the ground, with the back edge of the club, and the club is sort of just skimming off the ground, not a huge divot being taken. Perfect. Again, good distance. I'm pretty sure if you slow my swing down, my hands would be ahead of the golf ball, but they won't be so far ahead that the leading edge of the club is likely to interact overly with the ground unless I want it to, unless I'm trying to hit one that goes a lot lower. But that is a shot that you can come to, you can practice when the time is right. For now, get these basics right, get the ground strike right by changing your setup, bit of weight on the left leg, ball in the middle, feet not too wide. Get that upper body rotating through that turn the head drill. Let's get the pressure shift and the backswing working correctly rather than falling backwards. Let's get it going forward as you swing back. And then let's also lastly try and get the feeling of the back edge of the club being the thing that hits the ground first. Hope that all makes sense. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. Put a comment down below. If you would like any help with your pitching, by all means, come and see me, come and talk to me. Contact me. Let's get a lesson booked in. Otherwise, that's all from me for now. I'll see you all again soon. Bye.